about the book of Genesis, and we started with creation. After Adam and Eve had their children, then their children had children, and their children's children had children, and so on and so on. The Bible tells us about one of their descendants named Enoch, who loved the Lord and had a great deal of faith, and so God took him. And that's all Genesis tells us. Hebrews tells us that he had so much faith that God decided he wouldn't die. And so God just spared him the experience of dying. Then he had a son whose name was Methuselah. And I'm gonna pull our timeline out. Backside isn't all that pretty, but our timeline, you'll see Methuselah down there at the bottom, way over here. Methuselah lived to be 969 years old. He is the oldest man we have record of. Now, other people may have lived longer because we only have record of Seth's children to Abraham. And so we don't know how long other people lived, but we have record that Methuselah lived to be 969 years old. Almost 1,000 years. Then he had a son named Lamech, and he had a son named Noah. And the Noah had 3 sons, Ham, Shem, and Japheth, that the Bible tells us about. He may actually have had other children, but these 3 were the ones that were important. They're the ones that worked with him. So they're the only ones that we're told about. We don't know if they were triplets or if they were born at different times, and the Bible just chose to include them together. But the time came, by this time, there are several million people in the earth, and people were not serving God. They didn't believe in him, they were mean. The Bible says that there were giants in the earth, but that word that we translate giant in our King James Bible could have been, and probably should have been, translated as tyrants. So there were people who were bullies. They were just big bullies taking advantage of people, and they weren't nice. And certainly not showing the love of God. God, the Bible says God even got where he was sorry he'd ever even made man. Now, we do believe there were giants at the time. We know that throughout history there have been stories of humans that were of giant size, including the Bible talks about Goliath, who was 9 feet tall. That's very giant. We're getting close to that size of people today. Anyone who has ever seen a picture of Shaquille O'Neal?
Yes.
Next to a normal person. I saw a picture of, I think it was The Rock, next to other people, and he looked like a giant. Then they put him next to Shaq. And he was tiny compared to Shaq.
Right.
So I can easily believe there were giant humans in the earth. And we have fossil records of 9-inch dragonflies. And 9-foot, we call them elephant birds. They look like ostriches, but they were 9 feet tall. And we have samples of our fossil records of giants of all types at this time in history. The fossil records would be from the flood that we're talking about. People who came from families that served God were marrying people who came from families that didn't serve God. And everything was a mess. God was sorry he even started the whole thing. And so he decided he was going to do something about it. He found Noah, who had a heart for him. Noah loved him. And the Bible the book of Hebrews calls Noah a preacher of righteousness. So he was someone who was trying to get other people to live right. So God one day spoke to Noah and he said, I got a job for you. I want you to build me an ark. And I want you to make it this size. You're going to use this kind of wood. You're going to cover it in tar so it'll be waterproof. And this is what how you're going to make it, everything in. It's going to have one door, it's going to have one window, it's going to be finished to within 18 inches around the top. One time we went out and we measured. And those who have not been to my house, I'm sorry, you can't visualize this, but we own 1 acre and 1/3 of land. So we went out and we measured. The ark was, correct me if I'm wrong, because it was a long time ago. The ark was about half as wide as our land, our property. It was long enough that if the front end sat next to our street, the back end would have been halfway into the neighbor's property behind us. And it was as tall as the telephone pole in front of our house. So it was big, very big. And it was plenty big enough to hold two of each, or more, of all the land creatures. A sample of each species of land creature. Well, then Noah did not take 2 St. Bernards and 2 poodles, 2 chihuahuas, and 2 wolves. He just took 2 dogs. And then we've bred out the rest of the breeds from that. And the same for horses. He didn't take 2 Clydesdales and 2 Shetland ponies and 2 thoroughbreds. He took 2 horses. Probably our zebras and donkeys are descended from those 2 horses also. So they are that close enough together, yeah. So God sent him the animals, and he was to take 2 of every male of every unclean kind of animal, and 7 of every clean animal. And the clean animals are the ones that later on Moses would tell us which ones were clean that would be good for food. So cows, sheep, goats, deer, which would probably include giraffes. They are clean. And he made the ark big enough the giraffe could fit in there. I don't know what floor that they put them in. Some people have speculated the top floor was for people and food, and then the bottom floor for the middle floor for the animals, and the bottom floor for more food storage and a place to dump the waste or grow mushrooms or whatever that they needed it for. So God told Noah to build the ark. Noah and his 3 sons began to build the ark. It took them 100 years to build it, because it was big. And they got it all ready to go, and we're going to leave them right there until next week. Well, Noah was, if I remember right, he was 500 years old when he began to build it. 600 years old when he got on the boat. So yeah, it took him a long time. So, and evidently only his 3 sons helped him. We don't know. We can't see our song. Okay. Who did swallow Joe? Who did swallow Joe? Who did swallow Joe? Who did swallow Jonah down? Whale did swallow Joe? Whale did swallow Joe? Whale did swallow Joe? Whale did swallow Joe? Whale did swallow Joe?